Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Can you see me clearly and hear me clearly? Can wave. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today for clearly a very important conversation and webinar about the changes in the court systems right now in family courts. As we are all in our home offices or kitchens or in our basements, if you're up in the north, working from home, clearly things are changing. The way that we're handling our clients. There's somebody actually not muted. If you can mute yourself, there's some noise in the background. Okay, great. Clearly we're gonna have to do a lot of adapting, both for ourselves and our practice and for our clients. We know that divorce is extremely challenging in normal situations for the families, for the children involved, as well as for us as professionals. So we can only imagine what is happening now when it comes to divorce. And that's exactly why we are working diligently to create these webinar series for you surrounding divorce and coronavirus, because there's so many effects that are happening right now that we need to be aware of. We need to see how we can serve our clients the best way possible and what are going to be our options. Now, again, this is changing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Nothing is finite, but the best that we can do is share the information with you, have you share it within yourself, because that's what the NADP community is about. We're here for each other. We're all experts to a certain degree, and it is important that we rely on each other now more than ever, especially via technology, since it's the only means that we have. So we have about 44 people on this call today, all yearning for some information on this special topic. And the way that I'm going to handle is we have three incredible panelists on here. I'm going to introduce them individually. Well, we have Judge Tarlika Navarro, and we have attorney, and Judge Navarro is from Broward County in Florida. We have Michael Gilden, who is an attorney in Broward County, Florida, and we have Jason Tuckman, an attorney in New Jersey. We're trying to get different tastes. Clearly, we have members all over the country, and we're going to try our best to alternate. Whatever information they are going to present is based on their state only, for what they know that's going on, and it could be different, and it most likely is different across the country. That's why at the end of this conversation, I will open it up to discussion if anybody wants to add certain things that are going on in their states to educate everybody. So, having said that, I want to go ahead and start with Judge Tarlika Navarro, who was one of our panelists as well at our annual conference last year. She's highly respected in the community, a wonderful wealth of resource, and always willing to help attorneys and divorce professionals in general improve their practice and help their clients better. So I'm going to go ahead and read your bio, Judge. So give me 1 second here. So Judge Tarlika Nunez-Navarro is a circuit court judge for the 17th Judicial Circuit. She was appointed to the bench by Governor Rick Scott on March 12, 2018. Prior to her appointment, Judge Navarro was in private practice, specializing in criminal defense and women's rights. In private practice, she served as a managing partner at Haddad Navarro PLLC and co-founded the Bacchus, I hope I pronounced that right, and Navarro Law Group, where she formed the Florida Women's Law Center, a division of the firm that was devoted to helping women in the community navigate the often confusing and convoluted legal system. Now, prior to going into the private sector, Judge Navarro worked as an assistant state attorney in the 17th Judicial Circuit in Broward County. She was prosecuting crimes from first-degree misdemeanors to life felonies. She received her bachelor's degree from the University of Miami and her law degree from St. Thomas School of Law, where she graduated cum laude. While working on her Juris Doctorate, Judge Navarro clerked for the 11th Judicial Circuit in Miami-Dade County in the Family Law and Domestic Violence Division under the Honorable Judge Amy Curran. Judge Navarro currently sits as a circuit court judge presiding over family and domestic violence cases and is actively involved in many community organizations. Judge Navarro also serves as the judicial liaison for the Florida Association of Women Lawyers and the Broward County Hispanic Bar Association, and also sits on the Board of Advisors for St. Thomas University School of Law. So, Judge, welcome and thank you so much. We're honored to have you and take the time of your busy schedule to be able to educate our NADP members across the country better. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So as many are wondering, I want to sort of start off the question right now. Being a judge, if you could just explain certain of the things that you're seeing and the effects that you're seeing from coronavirus pandemic on the actual court thing.
Well, certainly we are seeing a vast amount of emergency pickup orders, time sharing issues, obviously. Long distance exchanges are now halted. Parenting plans are not being adhered to. And I see that your family law attorneys are really struggling to kind of get a handle on their clients. I can only imagine that your clients are driving you mad. So I'm really trying to work with the attorneys and make myself available. Access to the courts is certainly very important for at least my circuit, which is the 17th Judicial Circuit in the state of Florida. I know that we are probably the only county in the state of Florida that is doing that, so I don't want to represent that the state of Florida is unified in that Zoom capacity at this time. But we are trying to do our very best in the 17th Judicial Circuit to have access to the courts so you guys can get in and get your clients taken care of.
Excellent. Now, as far as your courts specifically, so what was sort of the protocol when all of this happened? Who brought it to your attention? How were the decisions made? How were things executed? How long did it take? Things like that, as far as we know that you are online at the moment with virtual courts.
It all went pretty fast, and there was really no uniformity. You kind of had to take it into your own hands and decide what you were going to do. So I just created a divisional procedures and got on Zoom right away. So I'm kind of tech savvy. I've never been on Zoom before, but it was quite easy to get adjusted and have a virtual courtroom. And I saw the need to do that immediately because I knew family law was going to get hit hard. And I think it really is. Like I said, I'm seeing a great amount of emergency pickup orders come through daily. I'm getting, when it was normal to get 1 a day, I'm getting 7 a day now. So that's where we're at. And there was no uniformity. I just kind of did it on my own. Now we're all getting uniform across the division. We're trying to have uniform set procedures, and we're all on Zoom and hopefully getting some type of uniformity for you guys.
Right. Are other counties sort of reaching out to you to see how you guys are doing it? Or is this, are other divisions, is this something that you're sort of like judges are getting together and saying, hey, we're doing it, it's working, maybe you should do it, things like that within your communities?
Yes, the chief judge in Orlando, Jacksonville, and Miami has reached out to me. So they are at least trying to do something like that. They're watching. I know Palm Beach is completely shut down. They're not even doing telephonic. So that's true.
That is definitely a challenge, and would be interesting. I'm sure many attorneys would like to have the opportunity and what would be the route that maybe some of the attorneys can help push the process along with the judges, not, push the process, but maybe request, or is there any kind of path that can take within their own state if they are not doing it?
I mean, I can't speak for other states. I can only say that I think chief judges are really inclined to try to help the general public and to have access to the courts. So I would just say what I would do. That would probably be a letter to the chief judge.
Right. Now, in the any of the courtroom sessions that you've done already last week, I believe you started last week, correct? Is that when it started? What are you noticing are sort of the pros and cons or the challenges that you're having with the doing it? Clearly, there's going to be several challenges being on a computer rather than in person. But what do you find is the hardest?
Certainly, my pro se clients, my domestic violence hearings, they run a little long now because it's just the timing. You have to get used to when to speak, when to pause, and when you have a highly contested hearing, that's very hard for people to pause, and allow the other person to speak. So you kind of really, your cadence needs to get adjusted to Zoom hearings. And I think that lawyers could really prepare their clients for that. I do think there is some type of a lackadaisical approach to Zoom because you don't feel like you're in the courtroom. That's why I normally just have my picture up. It's better if you don't see me, I think, for everyone to stay very calm and really feel like they are in a courtroom. I do state at the forefront, we are having a Zoom hearing. If we have any objections, please let me know now. And I kind of give them an idea of how this is going to go. You're not going to interrupt anyone. I like the capability of muting everyone and then unmuting them when I ask them a question. That's certainly a pro that we don't have in real life.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that as a judge, and I think this problem would be for attorneys as well. There's a lot of cues that you pick up when you're in person in court that you don't have the access to now. Do you feel that that is going to make an effect on decisions that are made throughout this process?
Well, I mean, I see everyone on video. So I see everyone on video. They don't see me. I'm picking up on the cues and the eye rolls and all of that. I don't think we're really missing anything there. I think that this is probably a pro in the long run. I think this is a good way to go for the future. We have so many national relocations where it's hard for parents to fly back and have hearings and depositions and mediations. And I do think this is the way of the future. I do not see a real con as far as evaluating credibility or any of that. I see that I can see people, I can read people, I can, I get an idea of what's going on. It's kind of like the etiquette of the lawyers need to kind of step it up. They need to prep their clients on, you are in a court of law, the judge is watching you every moment, and it's kind of zoomed in on your face as opposed to a courtroom. So I'm seeing all your gestures.
Do you think that people will feel actually more comfortable doing it on Zoom rather than being in a physical courtroom?
I mean, that would be speculation on my part, but I do think that, my UMCs are getting a little out of hand. This morning I had a really rough hearing that, people are talking over each other, they're arguing, they're bickering. So I can tell there's a comfort level that certainly is not in the courtroom. They would not act like that. So you really need to get a handle and not interrupt the judge.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine you talked about domestic violence, and I know that it's been brought to our attention by many attorneys and mental health professionals, coaches. A big issue right now is the availability for them to even be able to access online, having privacy, those that are still in situations that aren't, not in the level of court just yet, but that's a huge problem, right? That they don't have where to go online or even to make phone calls. I foresee that being a challenge that we'd have to figure out a way to overcome. I don't know the answer. I'm pretty sure I don't think anybody has the answer for that right now, and how to create a safe space for people that are experiencing domestic violence. And we will have another webinar really focusing on that. We'll be glad to have you on that as well, Judge. I know that you have a tremendous amount of experience in that area. But I think that what you just said too about it being the way of the future. When we started before, Jason and Michael and I had a time to talk a little bit, and unfortunately, there are some silver linings from this. It's pushing us to do things that we weren't going into wholeheartedly, and now it's sort of like from nothing to everything drastically. But stepping out of our comfort zones, I think that change is inevitable. And that's why you answered the question that I asked you, if you see this as a way of a future and continued. And as you mentioned, you do. So I think we all should be really taking this time to learn, learn how to do it effectively. As you mentioned, there are several things that attorneys can do. So can you go through some of those things that you would recommend that attorneys, how specifically they can prepare their clients, certain practices they can put into play to make it easier for you and for these online courtrooms to be smoother?
Yes. I would have a pretrial conference or a pre-hearing or any type of conversation with your client ahead of time, letting them know, like I said, listen, make sure your background is appropriate. The judge doesn't want to see anything illegal in the background or, you know, anything. We've seen some stuff already in 1 week that I don't even want to repeat. But, you know, that's something to be aware of. Always be aware of your background. Let your client know the judge is watching you zoomed in. I can see your face much closer than in a courtroom. I can see your eye rolls. I can see your huff and puffs. I can hear everything that goes on, which is, you know, something that you want to talk to your client about. Certainly no interrupting when the judge is speaking or when you're speaking or when opposing counsel's speaking. You do not talk out of place when you're on Zoom, because that just creates complete disorder. And, you know, it's really important to have order in the Zoom courtroom. I am back to back on my hearings, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, up until 5:30, I'm having hearings, so I can't get behind. And, you know, Zoom is really, it takes a little bit longer because, like I said, the cadence and the pace is different than in an actual courtroom. So you want to prepare your client on that. And you just want to, you know, we're all in a state of somewhat of a panic. So you want to talk to them about that and advise them to be as courteous as possible and really show everyone kind of needs to step up and be adults when it comes to parenting. Because imagine how scared we are. The children are, they're really frightened because this is the first for all of us. So it's this time that you guys really get the opportunity to shine as lawyers and get the opportunity to really make a difference in your families, because you're the advisors to these parents and you need to put an emphasis on the best interests of the children at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. I do want to urge for all of you to pay attention to the chat room because people are making comments. I may not be able to address all the comments that are there. But for example, Luz Nieto said that the Palm Beach is allowing telephonic on certain UMC hearings. Depends on the judge specifically, for those of you that are in Florida. For those of you that don't know what UMC is Uniform Motion Calendar, because I know it's different in different states. So just go ahead and make sure that while we're doing this, that you go ahead and read the chat, because I won't be able to necessarily read all of them on there, because there'll be some valuable information there too. Thank you so much, Judge. I think, and we're going to open it up after the end to questions. I'm sure people will have questions for you too at the end. And let's go ahead and move forward with this. Michael. Yes. Michael's our next runner-up. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce Michael right now. So Michael Gilden is a board-certified marital and family law attorney by the Florida Bar, and he is KO's partner heading the firm's family law practice throughout Florida, as well as various other jurisdictions throughout the county. I'm sorry, country. No, county, correct? I think that was a typo. Mr. Gilden is also an AV preeminent rated attorney in both legal ability and ethics, the highest possible rating by Martindale-Hubbell, which is the most widely recognized attorney rating organization in the United States. Mr. Gilden represents a wide-ranging client base in divorce, parenting disputes, paternity, post-dissolution enforcement, modification, and other related matters. Mr. Gilden represents clients with complex business valuation issues, as well as sensitive and intricate matters concerning custody and other child-related issues. Additionally, Mr. Gilden negotiates and drafts complex prenuptial and postnuptial agreements, as well as other forms of marital contracts. His practice also includes serving as a guardian ad litem in contested matters, representing the interests of children as selected by his colleagues and as appointed by the courts. Mr. Gilden, who is a Supreme Court of Florida certified family mediator, is often selected to serve as a mediator by the courts, as well as by his colleagues in effort to resolve complicated marital related cases. Thank you so much for being here, Michael.
My pleasure.
I know that you have directly had experience with the online courts already, and you know, the basic adjustments that are being made. And I'd like you to take this time right now to discuss a little bit about that, on, you know, how has your experience been so far with what's been the response in your county right now?
Sure. Thank you. The first thing I would probably suggest to everybody, and the people on this call are probably the least in need of this, but go online to these various systems that we're using, whether it be Microsoft Teams, whether it be Zoom, and practice. Learn how to use it. Learn where its button functions are. What I've discovered, because I am not extremely good with technology, but what I discovered is these things are built to be idiot-proof. The people that have built these platforms are way smarter than us. And if you just spend, 20 minutes getting on and practicing, even if it's with your, with a friend in another, in another home, it is a good way to do it, because I think that trying to alleviate some of Judge Navarro, and I'm sure other judges' frustrations with utilization of these platforms, you can avoid some of the problems that people are having if you practice and you learn what the delay is, how the camera switches after you start to speak, because that's normally the way that a lot of these programs are working. And then the other thing that I found to be at least maybe a silver lining is that we really are being filmed from the chest area up, which means we have our desks and we have our areas to have our notes, to have things spread out. You could actually be and potentially have more room to be more organized than you might even be in a courtroom, depending upon the size of everybody's courtrooms. I know that throughout different jurisdictions and states in the country, you may be confined in certain courthouses to conference rooms, small courtrooms, and sometimes huge courtrooms. But your own personal space that we're creating in our individual homes and our individual home offices can allow you to be organized in the manner you want, and nobody's going to see what you have down on your desk and the notes that you're using. So it's actually an opportunity to be even more prepared, which can only lend to assisting our judiciary with the frustrations that are going to come with just the absolute certainty that technological glitches are going to occur during this process.
Excellent. Are you, do you have like a standard protocol for your clients of what Judge was talking about, what they need to do, what you recommend? Also
Well,
sort of like a little training the technology of the meeting.
Sure. As you can see, I'm still getting used to not jumping in on top of people. It's Judge Navarro has scolded me in person for that, so I need to be very careful now. But yes, I don't know if I have a protocol that's developed. I would say I'm developing a protocol. And it is not dissimilar from my usual protocol, which is now more than ever, there is no substitute for preparation with your clients. Get them on the Zoom. Work with them on the Zoom. If you're going to have a Zoom hearing, and I'm going to use Zoom as a reference, like we say Xerox, but get them on video and work with them and explain to them, and even go through your questioning with them as you would prior, or as you should prior to any regular hearing that we would have had in our former lives, and let them know. And I think that I'm going to take a tip from Judge Navarro right now, which is a reminder, and it's probably a reminder you need to give to your clients constantly, that they can't whisper in your ear, and they have to be mindful of the fact that they're being potentially watched at all times. And so behavior and decorum, which is something we should have in the courtroom all the time anyway, is a premium now. And so I have already begun in anticipation for hearings and depositions and mediations, all of which we're trying to conduct in South Florida by video. I've already begun meeting with clients via video chat, and I have found them, once people figure out how to use it, they're really actually quite easy. And I believe it may be a wave of the future to utilize this instead of having to interrupt a client's day for them to come down to your office for what might wind up being a half an hour meeting with 2 hours of driving on either side. So prior to this, preparation, and now even more so.
Yeah. So Michael just put something in the chat, and I'm going to address it in a minute, Michael. I do see it, and I think that's a very important comment and question. But going back, being part of the NADP, founding the NADP, we love our members. We love you guys. We want you to serve your clients best. We also have a mission involved, right, in what's best for the user. Now, clearly there's going to be more time spent, more minutes, maybe more hours spent on being able to train or help your clients in this process. How is this going to affect financially as far as billing clients? Are you doing this? Are all of you lawyers doing this on a free basis, or are you actually billing your clients for the time that you're taking to coach them in this platform?
Well, I think that's going to be questions to be answered by individual lawyers in individual cases with individual clients. But in general, we have to feed our families as much as people need our assistance. Whether you were sending an email prior to our change in the world, or whether you were meeting with a client prior to our change in the world, you would bill them for that time. Now, if there's time being spent on purely, hey, try this out with me, or let's figure this out, you could give your clients a break. And I'm sure that many of us are going to have to balance the billing our clients for the time versus giving them an understanding of how this is going to work perspective. And I think that will catch up at a certain amount of time. I believe that the number one issue that we're dealing with here is the unknown factor of time. None of us have any idea, and I don't think anybody is in a position to tell us from the top down when this is going to end. So because we have a lack of understanding as to time, we're going to have to start making a living again. And that's why access to courts is so important to the individual lawyers, because yes, we do and we should be promoting the interests of our clients first and foremost, but this is a business and we are here to earn livings for our families as well. And so I think you need to develop your own protocols and err on the side of caution. If your clients are going to have enough trouble and be concerned enough about their ability to pay your bills at all, the last thing you're going to want to do is get into an argument about a client over a 0.1 or a 0.2 extra or less for an individual meeting, an individual Zoom, an individual this. I generally take the position that if we're talking about short increments of time, I'm going to give my client the benefit of the doubt until I believe that they're taking advantage of me. I just think that's good business. So that's how I'm suggesting, if that's what you're asking, that you do. Just take a look on an individual basis. You have to make a living, but you have to be understanding of those clients that some may be far wealthier than you and some may be far less. And everybody's got issues. So make sure you know your clients. If there was ever a time to develop a relationship with your individual clients, now is it. Know what their circumstances are, because they're going to be appreciative if you don't have to start going through with them, where do you work? You should know that stuff. Be prepared.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you for that. Yes, and like you said, the clients that don't have, we're not talking about the ones that have a tremendous amount or more and things like that, but the ones that do, in general, I think clients on the most part are very hesitant and worried about billable hours and how much time, and that's a big part of it. And like you said, now they're all experiencing loss of wages, loss of employment, loss of, a tremendous financial burden on themselves that I would think that would make them more nervous too when they know that they have to learn new systems, if they don't know them, of course. We're talking about a specific type of clientele. So thank you for that. I appreciate all your comments. I think you went over all the questions that we had. One, to end it off again on a bright note, and you talked a little bit about it. What do you see as further benefits of this moving forward, right, that we can all learn and take with us moving forward?
Sure. Just an example from yesterday. And Judge Navarro made mention of this in her presentation as well a little bit. Yesterday, I participated in took a deposition of a witness who I know the court reporters are developing systems for. And one of my biggest concerns is how we're swearing in witnesses and how we're getting them to be under oath. but it was whether or not we were in the time of the coronavirus or before or after. The deposition was of a school teacher involving children in the case, and the ability to not inconvenience a third-party witness. Sometimes the parties have to be inconvenienced, but a third-party witness, you want to try to do everything you can to give them as much latitude to participate in the case, not necessarily against their will, but they're not looking to be involved. And so if you are saying, hey, all you got to do is have a computer and a camera, that goes a long way to having somebody say, okay, well, I can do that. I can sit and answer your questions on camera. So maybe that is going to be a wave of the future. And maybe as it comes to inconveniencing important, but not necessarily the party witnesses, go ahead and take their deposition by video. It works. We just have to have a uniform system at some point to ensure that everybody is being sworn in and that the judges are going to consider the testimony as equally from that as they would from any type of regular setting we would be in.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And I said we were going to open it up for discussion at the end, but I've been reading what Michael Kreidel has written, and I'd like you to unmute yourself and just mention what you mentioned in the chat room, please, because I think that's something we should address right now.
Sure. The SBA has been pushing out, as well as Treasury, have been pushing out reams of information, multi-hundred-page documents, and a lot of it has errors, including deadlines. One of the first deadline error was that the program was going to end March 31st. People were panicking. There are lenders who may or may not participate in a lot of these transactions. They will affect some of the assets and liabilities of employers. And there are new versions coming out that they're working on to correct the various errors in the rush to get this out for whatever reason that it was rushed. It will affect valuation of assets of businesses to a great extent, particularly because some of these are enforceable. Some of them, some SBA requires personal guarantees, but most of these new ones don't. So it will affect a lot of different things.
Michael, you mentioned you were talking about the security related issues with Zoom, and that's something that we'd like to address right now. How is that affected in the legal aspect of this? And like you said, you mentioned that Zoom is a Facebook asset. So ultimately, you're using somebody else's asset. What as far as the expert panelists, the judge or Michael, do you or Jason, do you have anything to comment about that aspect, or judge about the security issues?
Access to courts and public courts is something that is inherent in our system. And as soon as someone joins, I want to know who they are, what they're doing. But at the same time, when you try to get into my courtroom and at the courthouse, I really can't exclude you, whether you're the media or whatnot, unless we have some sort of adoption or domestic violence hearing going on. During my domestic violence hearings, I'm I'm very concerned about the privacy issues. So I'm putting everyone automatically in waiting rooms, and I'm only admitting you unless you are a party to that case.
Waiting rooms are important. It's good that you have that tech skill, Your Honor. As someone, I'm not an attorney, but I'm a testifying expert, and I testified not just in Florida, but in other states. So this technology makes my life somewhat easier to a great extent, depending on the jurisdiction. But the issues with Zoom is that there are some open loops in the coding that Facebook has not addressed. Zoom was an independent company, Facebook bought it. If you just Google Zoom and security, you will be overwhelmed on the web as to some of the issues that are being raised. And because of this, there are some issues that are being addressed not as priorities, but as workday type issues to address by federal law enforcement. And anything that involves Facebook means you need to think about it seriously as to the security of the information that you're discussing being transmitted.
I think this would be a good other webinar that we can do a deeper dive into the security aspects of this, and possibly, you know, hacking into courtrooms or hacking into, you know, certain private meetings, right? For attorneys that you're having confidential meetings with your clients, how is that going to be affected if for some reason security isn't 100%. So thank you for just bringing that up, Michael. I'm going to actually continue onward with Jason right now. So I'm going to thank you very much, Michael, for the information again. And Jason, let's go ahead and introduce you. So Jason Tuckman is certified by the Supreme Court of New Jersey as a matrimonial law attorney, a certification achieved by only 2% of attorneys in New Jersey. He is a court qualified family law mediator, and he is specially trained as a collaborative divorce attorney. He also volunteers his time as a panelist for the Matrimonial Early Settlement Program in Passaic County, and he's a panel chair for the Matrimonial Early Settlement Program in Bergen County. Mr. Tuckman received a Martindale-Hubbell peer review rating based on his exemplary work in the field of family law, mediation, child custody, and child support. Mr. Tuckman received a Martindale-Hubbell peer review. I'm sorry, that was repeated. He was given an AV preeminent rating from his peers, which means that he is deemed to have very high professional ethics and legal ability in the field of New Jersey family law. Thank you so much for being here, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. So let's talk about, we were just talking about Florida, clearly, and now we're going to talk about to help for the Northerners up there. I know that you mentioned that they're not doing online virtual courtrooms, but that everything is telephonic right now. So why don't you talk about how New Jersey is handling it and your experiences right now with that?
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, that's correct. Today, as of today, April 1st, everything's telephone in New Jersey. And really, I have to say that the efforts and dedication by the New Jersey courts and the staff has really been incredible. Technologically, our courts, especially the family part, is just, we weren't prepared for this. We weren't prepared for a shutdown. I know some jurisdictions have e-filing. New Jersey family courts do not. So we were behind even before this COVID-19 crisis hit us. But again, everyone's really been working incredibly hard to make sure that we continue servicing our clients and that, you know, the justice system doesn't shut down entirely. Really, the only mandate that's come from our Supreme Court is that there are no in-person court appearances, and as many matters as possible should be handled by telephone or video conference. But again, that video conference in family part matters has not begun. I anticipate it will at some point. Judges are talking about it, the bar is talking about it, but as of today, everything's been by telephone.
Right. Now, and I'll ask Judge after to chime in on that, but again, I think that there's probably a huge difference between doing an online, like we were talking about the visual cues that you're able, you know, the judge is able to see visually. I would think that on the phone, it's more difficult as well.
It's very difficult. Yeah. I mean, you're removing one of our senses, right? The ability to see people, to see if judges are dismissive of our arguments or receptive to our arguments. Judges can't see clients and litigants and how they're responding. It requires a change in how we practice law. To an attorney, like an operating room to a surgeon, the courtroom is where we shine. That's what we prepare for. And you've now removed that from our practice. We can be doing it from the comfort of our own home, but perhaps we're not wearing a suit or we're not standing up. It's a much different process and procedure. And again, the way that we have to address the court and handle arguments, it's a different mode and manner of communication as well. There's the back and forth. There's a lot more interrupting. People don't know when to speak. You know, attorneys don't like silence. So if there's too much quiet on the phone, someone starts speaking, it creates a lot of problems and it makes matters a lot more difficult. Yes. And also the courts are only handling very, I'll say, routine matters. The evidentiary hearings and trials are all being pushed until May. So we're not handling those sort of complicated matters that require really witness testimony and documentary evidence to be submitted to the courts.
Right. Now, do you foresee there being long-term negative effects on the way that it's handled right now?
Well, I think Yes, and I think that the long-term effect, which really is going to affect us all, is that it's creating a bottleneck in our court system. That because a lot of matters are not being addressed and are just being pushed right now until May, but who knows how long, there's going to be a tremendous backlog of cases that have not been resolved during this period of time, as well as what we're all anticipating, and that's perhaps an avalanche of new cases when the courts finally do open up. So now we have all the old cases that we have to resolve and push through, as well as new cases, and it's going to be, I think, a strain on the attorneys, on the judges, and on the system as a whole. So that, yes, I do see, and as a result, our clients and the litigants may be rushed through the system.
Do you think that on a good note of it, that maybe they'd be more open to mediation or settling, or more, a little
Absolutely.
bit more compliant?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to avoid these challenges is to really avoid them entirely and try to resolve the case outside. And I know that while the courts have not implemented Zoom or video conferencing technology, it's been mentioned that the mediation practice has, and here in New Jersey it has as well. And that's a very hot and growing business, is the virtual mediations. And absolutely litigants and attorneys would benefit from participating in that to avoid having to go to court right now and having an issue decided on the phone, which is a lot less personal than seeing the judge and being in the courtroom.
Right. What recommendations would you have for your fellow attorneys in preparing again for these telephone, or I know that in some states it's only there's actually only via email, from what I understand as well. I think in Chicago they can actually do divorces through email right now. I don't know if Mark Schondorf is on here, but I was talking to him, and he's one of our directors in Chicago that was mentioning that. So what do you recommend? What are your...
I think Michael said it before, to prepare your clients in advance when they're on the phone with the opposing counsel and his or her spouse. There's no privacy of communications. They can't pull you aside and speak to you. You can't sidebar with the judge. So you really have to know what you want your attorney to say and what your client wants you to say beforehand, unless you have some other means of communication, whether email with the client or texting. Just remember, we're not going to get, or our clients are not going to get their day in court. For us in New Jersey right now, you'll get your day on the telephone, which again is a lot different. So it's not as, it's quicker, it's faster. Judges only want to address the issues that are emergent really right now, emergent issues involving COVID-19, parenting time, custody issues. If you are going to be on the phone, some of the obvious recommendations: make sure you're in a place that's quiet and you don't have children or dogs barking in the background. I mean, I have kids and I have a dog, and I'm surprised they've been quiet this long. It happens, and I think everyone's understanding of that, but you want to be in a safe place where there's no distractions.
Okay.
But really, as we touched on before, the best advice that I can give to attorneys or litigants is to avoid this altogether and really try to resolve your differences outside. It requires everyone being more reasonable than perhaps we have been, and not just involving COVID-19 issues and parenting time issues and custody issues, but financial issues and other issues as well. Because by the time we get in New Jersey a determination on those issues from the courts, you're talking probably months down the line. So things are really slowing up. So if you want to move it along, you have the control and you have the ability to do that on your own.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. I do know that there's a few questions I'm going to address in the chat room in a minute. One thing that I do want to say, and this is just in reference to communications, is what's so difficult here is the fact that you are all going through the same thing your clients are going, right? So when you're told on how you have to prepare for your clients, the truth of the matter is that you're dealing with this pandemic in your own personal space with your families and the challenges that you're having. So you're bringing your own emotional state to the table too. So I think this is what's so challenging. So I think it's very healthy for everybody to sort of start with themselves. get themselves into the right place before they even address their clients. I think that's really important, and prepare them for this. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and open up for discussion. So why don't you, if you have a question, just put yourself in the chat room. Just say I have a question, and I'll get to you. I'm going to start with Josh. Josh, do you want to unmute yourself and just read out what your question was for the judge? If you're still here, Judge Krause, are you there? I'm sorry, Josh. Well, I'll read it out then. He said, Judge, are you seeing an increase in specific types of DV hearings? And is there anything different about how you're handling or deciding these cases?
I don't believe we will be seeing those differences yet. Right now, I'm hearing pre-COVID DV hearings, because there's about a 2-week lag on our petitions. So, they're set within 2 weeks. So that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing just prior to the COVID shutdown. I certainly do expect an increase in our DV numbers. If you are locked in the home and you're prone to domestic violence, that's certainly going to be something that I expect to be seeing. And certainly no difference in how I handle or decide these issues. The law is the law, and the letter of the law is the letter of the law. And, there needs to be a strict compliance with the law, certainly at this time and at all times. So no, I am not varying anything as we look and assess domestic violence, but we do need to be aware of things that you said, like privacy issues and whether or not petitioners can be safe and in a place where they can testify. And I know I've had several already in the car. So people who are in their cars, and luckily for all of us, we have cell phones with video capacity and capability, and that certainly offers the petitioners and certainly the respondents a chance to tell their side of the story, which is really wonderful.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Can I add something, Liz, to that?
Yes,
just as a point of comparison, Judge, in New Jersey, temporary restraining orders are still being granted over the telephone. That's always been the process. But for final hearings, everything is being scheduled in May. So there are no even domestic violence hearings scheduled for several weeks down the road. So you're talking about what the court usually likes to have resolved within 10 days, now being extended to at least 30 days. So again, just to compare what we're doing up here in New Jersey, because we don't have the Zoom, a domestic violence hearing over telephone would be virtually impossible.
I could add something too, I think, relevant to this topic. And it's actually a question for Judge Navarro, as well as a thought for all of us practitioners on the phone. It just dawned on me. What if you're in a hearing with husband and wife and they're still living together, which is the way that it works a lot of the time? What if only one of them has access to the one computer that they have in their house? What if their house isn't big enough, even if they have two computers, to be separated? These are just the number of issues we're going to have from all these things. And I think these are rhetorical questions to the extent that Judge Navarro, you're not comfortable giving the answers, but I'm sitting here thinking to myself, my goodness, maybe you're in a 1-bedroom apartment with your soon-to-be ex-spouse, and now you're being told you've got to appear via video for a hearing. And exactly how is that going to work? We have one computer, or as I said, all these other issues. I don't know if the judge has anything she wants to add to that.
It's certainly a challenge. I mean, I agree with you, and I'll say it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This is all something that none of us were prepared for, and we're working through the challenges. I think there is, thank goodness for technology, where we can offer the ability to have the domestic violence hearings in a timely manner. Because I do find that to be very important, especially for respondents who, a domestic violence injunction has been ordered temporarily against them, and let's say they're out of the house. It's an injustice that they would have to wait a month or 2 months until they can get back in their home if there's no substantiated evidence against them. So I do think there are challenges. I do give all my pro se's domestic violence or anyone the opportunity to call in. So there certainly could be only one computer, but everyone has their own telephone. But then of course there's going to be challenges with the telephone. What if someone takes their spouse's telephone? So it's not iron-proof. It certainly can't be at this time, but we're doing the best that we can do under the circumstances.
Right. And you know, we're talking about the challenges that they're having, and we do know that, what's that saying, that criminal court brings out the best in people and family court brings out the worst in people, something to that degree. So I can imagine that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to take advantage of this situation. And you know, the lack thereof, the ability to meet with people in person. So, you know, again, this is a growing issue. It's changing every day, and that's why we're having these webinars. And we're going to have many more. I think that we can make a list. Michael, probably you can make a list out of the more questions that have, you know, brought to your mind. But let's continue with a few more questions. Laura, are you still on here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and ask what you wanted to ask?
Sure. This, I think, dovetails with what Judge Navarro was just saying and what Michael Gilden was just saying as well, and also Jason, as far as conducting telephonic hearings. How is the court and how are lawyers handling client counseling issues? For example, I had a telephonic hearing with a judge in Miami last week who wanted an immediate answer about a particular question. And because my client and I were both on the phone in the hearing, I wasn't able to consult with her and explain to the client what it is that the judge was asking, so that the client could then make an informed decision. So that was one issue. And then another issue that has recently come up as far as telephonic hearings is the inability to know, is there someone else in the room with that party or that witness who may be testifying? Maybe there's somebody sitting there with them, coaching them, passing answers to them. It's really, I think, created a significant evidentiary problem. Judge Navarro, is that something that you have run into? What suggestions would you have for handling that?
Certainly we're running into those. I can't really give legal advice on how to handle that, or even advice on how other divisions would like that to be handled. You know, like I said, we're really functioning independently, more so than ever. We do have the intent to get together and have a unified system, but we're like 7 days in or 6 days in at this time. So, really on that matter, I don't think I should really be answering that question.
With the online aspect, I know with Zoom you have the breakout rooms. Are you able to do that with Zoom if the lawyer wants to counsel their client and have them go into a breakout room? Is that a possibility? I know that on the telephone, I know is your challenge, Laura, but online, could that be a...
But even with that, you don't know if someone's standing behind the monitor or the camera and coaching or saying something or
intimidating,
giving tips. Right, to whoever is on the camera, and that's the same as someone being on a telephone and having someone listening, and so even if you can enter into a breakout room, which I understand is possible, we do it for mediations. I assume it could be done in a courtroom or in a court hearing. You just don't know if those things are happening. Right.
Yeah, I think, Laura, I guess it's something that just you guys are going to have to overcome and work with those factors and be the amazing attorneys that you all are. Laura, there was a question here, a different Laura. I think it's Laura Gill. If you want to go ahead and answer your question, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
And actually, I had a couple different questions. And sorry if this was addressed because I joined the call late, so I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm a realtor, so I handle a lot of divorce cases, and often these clients are advised to stay in their home together until it's sold, the marital home. Is that still going to be the case? Because, you know, we're essentially frozen in the real estate market. And it's leading to some tension because I've got clients who are of course, hate each other and are stuck in the same house together, and we can't list their house yet.
I can take that one. Basically, I think that people, at least in Florida, there's a tendency for a lot of divorcing couples to have to be forced into a position to reside together during their divorce, and there's probably varying degrees of heat that rise and fall throughout the process. Unfortunately, now, besides there being a dormant real estate market, in a lot of jurisdictions, it's probably difficult to find a hotel room. So even if you wanted to leave, even if a judge had the justification for having a person leave the home or become separated, in a physical sense, you may have practical issues that are going to make some of that impossible. Not even if somebody has money. If they don't,
Right.
there's a whole different story. But if they don't have money, there may not be a place for them to go. Not everybody's got a friend. Not everybody's got and not everybody's going to be as inviting to other people into their homes, given the fact that we're transmitting the virus between people as well. The questions that are going to build up are going to be far greater than the answers, unfortunately, for a long time.
Right.
So
I
they're
think
just kind of stuck.
Yeah. We're going to do a webinar specifically about real estate, because that's a whole other, wealth of problems in that aspect.
Yep.
I did your question. This is going to be the last question. But the one that you talked about, because I think this is an important question to ask the judge, that if a client has lost a job and is looking for financial relief for child support or alimony, is this going to be retroactively given, if the courts are backed up? What's going to happen when they finally get to court?
I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
I certainly can't answer it for the U.S. I can't answer it for the state of Florida. I can't answer it for the 17th Judicial Circuit. And I really can't answer it for my division at this time. But, we are a court of equity. That's all I can say is we really are trying to do our very best to roll with this situation and help everyone and have access to the court system at this time. I know that I'm setting temporary matters immediately. So you guys have the access that you wouldn't have been able to have 20 years ago. So as many challenges that there are right now, I think we all do need to take a step back and be very grateful for the ability to have temporary matters heard at this time. But I can't answer that question.
And I appreciate that. And I thank you, Judge, for your honesty and for your help too. I know that this is, hard for you too. I don't think anybody has the answers right now. And whatever bit of information that you can share and that you have shared, I think is very appreciative. And for, those of you that are in other states that unfortunately don't have the ability for this online or aren't having judges like Judge Navarro that are, taking care of these temporary orders diligently. I guess this is just a challenge that you're going to have to overcome on your own, and maybe be able to make some suggestions. Maybe at the NADP, we can, put something together and masterminds and things like that. We're welcome to suggestions from our members. If there is anything on this meeting, from this webinar, any questions that you have that weren't addressed, or any topics that you think are going to be valuable for you and for other members, please email us. You can go ahead and email me directly to liz@thenadp.com with any comments or questions. And I think we're done. It's 1 o'clock, and I want to really thank you, Judge, Michael, Jason. Thank you so much for being here, taking the time out of your really busy schedules right now. Yeah. And let's just all work together on making this a better outcome for our clients at the end, right? It'll take some time, but we're all in on this together. So thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Great. And just one more thing, please, for our NADP members, as you know, we have our these webinars at least twice a week now. So every Friday, we're going to be sending out a week in review email that will give you the link to the recordings of the ones that just passed and what's coming up the following week. And this is an NADP member only webinars. So please go ahead and look out for that email on Fridays. Okay. And make sure that you're attending your online chapter meetings as well. It's valuable. If anybody wants to stay on after this, just to do some networking, I'll be glad to stay on here, and you can just, do your little introduction of who you are, what you are. If you want to meet others, you're welcome to stay on. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Judge.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so let's see who's staying on. Well, we got Jason still on. Yay! Oh, Vicky, Vicky, this is your thing. You're
Hi,
good at
Vicky.
this. You want to lead this this little whoever's stayed on here for networking? Are you there? Did I lose Vicky? Oh, Vicky's there. Oh, wait, you're muted. Hold on. Okay. Oh, wait, you were muted. So go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. I said it looks like you guys had a really great turnout today, and it was a good topic.
Yeah.
Did you tell them about the upcoming ones that we have on Friday and next week?
I didn't mention the specific ones. We were running late, but we'll go ahead and email them. But you can mention to those that are on here.
Yeah, we have some great ones coming up. Friday, we have the financial impacts of the market shift on divorce modification, spousal support, child support.